What's up everybody, it's me, Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Overwatch video. And in this video we gotta break down 10 annoying heroes that you play against often and how they're simple to counter. We're gonna talk about ways to counter them, tips and tricks that you should incorporate if you want to dominate these characters. But I've been consistently streaming gameplay, VOD reviews, and tips and tricks, so check me out in the description down below. Smash that subscribe so we can get to 50,000 subscribers, and let's get into the video. Now, a character that I know many of you are very annoyed with is Erisa. Erisa is an absolute menace, but Erisa has some key weaknesses. On the front line, Erisa is basically unstoppable and unkillable, capable of keeping her alive with multiple abilities and then constantly stunning you, maybe killing you in the mid-fight. But that being said, Erisa is incredibly greedy for heals. In addition to that, Erisa doesn't peel all that well, especially if her supports or DPS are actually quite a bit away from the Erisa. So the majority of the time, the way that you actually shut down the Erisa is by ignoring her at least as much as you can. Abuse the high ground and find alternate angles in which you can target the back line, forcing the Erisa to not brawl where she wants to on the front line if she wants to peel, or if she doesn't peel and stays on that front line, she is not going to be able to stop you from actually killing her back line. The next character that is incredibly annoying to deal with is a Junkrat. Junkrat just creates so much space pressure that it can feel really daunting to play against a good Junkrat. But there's several things that you can incorporate if you want to shut him down. Realize that space that you navigate in the open is going to be typically safer than any of the areas where Junkrat can thrive. So even in a traditional area that you would normally contest, if the Junkrat exists and is occupying that area, then most of the time you're going to want to take an alternate route that keeps you in open LOS. In addition to that, if you're ever going for a play on the Junkrat or anyone else, be more deliberate with the space that you are traveling through and don't just stand in choke points and go very, very slow and undecided when you open and cross that space. Basically, you want your engagements to be very quick in, quick out. You don't want your engagements to last an incredibly long time, because the longer they last, the more value Junkrat will get. And of course, always shoot the freaking traps, even if you're dodging them. Don't let your teammates walk into a Junkrat trap and die for free. And if you're a hit scan or a high damage projectile character like Hanzo, realize it's your job to actually shoot the tire. So don't run away and let your entire team die. Next up, we do gotta talk about Torp. And Torp can be pretty annoying to deal with, but a couple of things you could do. If you're not someone that can easily destroy the turret, just ping it for your teammates. It's gonna make it a little bit easier for them to spot and focus it down, because it can be pretty frustrating if a Torp turret just never dies and gets way too much value. Now, Torp's biggest weakness is the fact that he has a huge hitbox. So there's a lot of characters that can actually shut him down really easily. Any of the hit scans, characters like Hanzo, are really able to abuse Torp quite a bit. But make sure after you destroy that initial Torp turret that you instantly destroy any other Torp turret he throws out in the mid fight. Don't allow it to build itself to full and destroy it while it's super simple for you to destroy. Any role can do this, support, DPS, or tank. So just take note of Torp using his turret. Next up, we do got to talk about Ramattra. And Ramattra can be an absolute menace at times in order to deal with, but a couple of things. Unlike Doomfist's block, Ramattra's block can be bursted through. You can actually kill Ramattra and there's no penalty to shoot it. So if Ramattra's at run HP blocking, don't stop firing, focus it together, and just burst through that Ramattra. Now, when Ramattra has an ultimate, it's very important for you to decide if it's possible for you to run away or if it's better for you to actually try to kill the Ramattra. Sometimes it's not going to be realistic for you to get away, especially if you have no CC or no speed. So it's going to be up to you to make that call, and oftentimes a Ramattra will get a ton of free value because everyone on the enemy team actually backed away and ran away from the Ramattra when you should have all just focused the Ramattra. And trying to communicate is the best way to do this. I know you don't always have perfect control over that, but it is important for you to identify what your teammates are trying to do and follow along with that. Now, in general, though, after Ramattra uses his Nemesis form, he's very weak to close-range brawl, whether that's by a tank or a DPS. Ramattra has to very specifically utilize that ability when there's characters that can punish him for close range, and when he wastes it, a character like a Reaper or a Junkrat or a Roadhog or a Rhine can punish him greatly But next up, we do got to talk about Mercy, which can be very annoying when you get pickoffs and the Mercy always gets the res off. There's nothing you could do, right? It just feels very frustrating. Feels like you keep getting pick after pick and it gets rezzed and rezzed and rezzed. The first thing that you got to do is when your team gets a pick on a Mercy, you need to scale with that pick. Basically, there should be additional pressure created by you and your team pushing forward when the pick happens so that your DPS, supports, tanks can all get an angle on potentially the Mercy rezzing. Don't just stay in an isolated position the second you get that pick, especially when the Mercy can res, because you're trying to get in a position where you can either 1, stop the Mercy and kill her, so it prevents the res, or 2, actually punishes another target, because not only did they down one person, but the Mercy is not healing in that moment, so you want to capitalize and punish that Mercy for taking that time off the battlefield. This is super important and very important that you do and communicate if you want to shut the Mercy down. But the next character that we got to talk about that can be pretty annoying to deal with is definitely a Pharah, paired with the Mercy more so, but Pharah can be a freaking nightmare to deal with. And the thing that you need to understand is why a hit scan definitely is the most direct way to deal damage to a Pharah. You got to realize that one hit scan alone against a good Pharah Mercy is just simply not enough. Everyone needs to be doing their part in dealing with the Pharah Mercy, putting damage in the Pharah Mercy, not allowing the Pharah to have as much space as they want to by doing damage or throwing abilities their way. And the most important thing is if you have a hit scan player or someone that can directly deal with the Pharah, you need to be giving that person as much resources and space as possible. If it's a cast needs to be able to peek out into open space, get a clear line of sight and not die to just rocket spam. And if you don't heal them or don't create the space as a tank, it's going to be very hard for them to do that. So it's really important that you think about a Pharah as a team effort, not an individual one. And if you're always going into it like there's nothing I can do about this character and my DPS can't hit this shot or whatever the case may be, you're looking at it the wrong way, because it's a team job to try to actually deal with this mini raid boss, and then you can move on to the rest of the game. Next up, we gotta talk about Bastion, where a lot of people think Bastion is very strong, especially the lower in rank you go, but Bastion has some huge weaknesses that you could take advantage of. First off, Bastion is huge, like really thick. So if you have decent aim, you can hit him with a ton of different types of fire, utilizing natural cover so you're not peeking into the Bastion sentry for all that long. Now, if the Bastion actually utilizes the turret form, then you can push the Bastion a lot easier and you're not as scared. So baiting out the Bastion turret and then making sure that you back off only to re-engage is a fantastic tactic. On top of that, last but certainly not least, abilities are super easy to hit on Bastion. This could be rock, it could be hook, it could be nade, it could be slip, it could be a million things. Super easy to hit on Bastion. So make sure that he's the prime target for a lot of your ability uses, especially when he's in his turret form. You can jiggle around the corner, hit him with a piece of ability because he's super slow and super easy to hit. Next up, we do got to talk about Zarya, and Zarya has a lot of key weaknesses. But the biggest thing that you gotta exploit is the fact that bubbles don't give Zarya immortality. Oftentimes, Zaryas will push way outside of their team's controlled space, way into the enemy team, and hope that their bubbles allow them to get back to safety. Now, I know you're conditioned to not shoot bubbles because you don't want to give the Zarya a charge, but if the Zarya is way out of position and relying on especially just one bubble to get them out, bursting through that bubble and putting damage into the Zarya, focusing the Zarya, could be a great way to just punish a Zarya that is way over aggressive. And I promise you, at the vast majority of ranks that people are playing Zarya in, they are way out of position. They're way greedy with their ability use, and you can punish them for it. Don't allow them to waste bubbles or not get value out of their bubbles and then position aggressive when they should be positioning passively. Next up, we do gotta talk about Mora, which is the character that a lot of people have some problems with, but the biggest thing that you need to make sure you do if you're trying to duel a Mora in particular, like a DPS Mora, is you have to make sure that you're not panicking. This character will still hit you no matter how they're moving. They can move all over the place and they're gonna kill you at the same rate. No criticals, it's gonna be a static amount of damage, and all you have to do is focus and slow it down. I know that this is hard because you're taking damage, but realize that if you start to panic, you start to freak out, you are actually just setting yourself up for failure. It's more important for you to be as slow and as patient as possible, lining up those criticals, know your damage combos on your character, and that's the way that you're actually going to be able to officially win matchups against this character over and over. But last but certainly not least, we got to talk about Roadhog, which might be the most annoying character of them all, but Roadhog has a lot of key weaknesses. First off is, after that hook is down, Roadhog is really not a threat. Sure, if he's really close to you, or if he hits a very lucky convergence fire, he can technically kill you, but especially if you're being aggressive and utilizing decent movement, Roadhog's main lethality is directly tied to his hook. So playing around a corner or cover and jiggling out where you're jiggling out doing a shot or jiggling out doing a little bit of damage, oftentimes you're going to be able to bait out a hook. And this works even against top 500 Roadhogs. It's very, very easy to bait out a hook because of the travel time. Roadhogs are often trying to predict and line it up and set it up to where you're peeking a corner and then they're timing it perfectly. But after you bait out that hook, now all of a sudden you could be more aggressive. This could be aggressive on the hog himself, or it could be aggressive going for a play, like you're a tracer going for a play on the enemy backline. It doesn't necessarily matter exactly who you're targeting. All you need to know is that the idea is you bait out the hook first, then you go for a play. Bait out the hook first, go for a play. Bait out the hook first, go for a play. And this is going to make the hog a lot less effective. And realize that one of the biggest ways that hogs don't carry games is that they're not getting hooks at a consistent enough rate. You've had them on your team, a Roadhog that just doesn't get any hooks, and all around him, his team is dying, and it feels like he can't do anything to leverage or level the playing field. Super, super important, something you can abuse by intentionally baiting out hooks. And especially if you jiggle peek an angle, knowing where the hog is at and that he's trying to hook you, but not necessarily directly looking at him, it's going to be a great way because the hog thinks it's a slam dunk easy hook. Waste the hook, and now you can go make a play. Now, these are just some tips to counter some of these annoying heroes, but of course, if you want more in-depth advice, we have a Patreon down below for private coaching. So far, I've had over 20 students rank up multiple ranks. I've had students hit their all-time high of Masters. I've had students go all the way from Gold to Grandmaster. It's freaking nuts. So definitely go check it out if you want a private coaching session down below. Check out my stream, smash that subscribe, and I'll see you next time.